The emergency alarm split through the silence of Harmony Rise, sending council members scrambling from their quarters. Ambassador Trell pressed through the crowded corridors, his insectoid legs clicking against the metal floor with practiced urgency. Something terrible had happened. The last time the station went to full alert, a star had gone supernova near the mining colonies. Inside the Grand Chamber, representatives from 7 species gathered in controlled chaos. Brevin of the Dulmer floated in his water sphere near the central podium, tentacles gesturing wildly as he argued with General Korst. The silicon-based Grenth commander's crystalline form flickered with agitated colors, a sure sign of stress. Chairman Volus called for order, his avian features sharp with concern. The holographic display above them showed 3 colony stations, each one now displaying the universal symbol for distress. Red markers blinked across the star map like wounds bleeding into space. The Krellin marauders struck without warning, General Korst announced, his voice resonating through the chamber like grinding stone. Redstone 7 went dark 4 hours ago. Then Haven's Rest. Now Morningstar Colony has stopped transmitting. Trell felt his stomach turn. Those weren't military installations. Those were civilian settlements. Families live there. Children. How many ships does Warlord Drask command? Ambassador Yenna asked, her feathers rustling with barely contained fury. Our intelligence suggests 300 warships, possibly more. Coarse colors shifted to deep crimson, the Grenth equivalent of despair. Our defensive fleet is scattered across 12 sectors. We could assemble maybe 20 ships within a week. 40 if we pull everyone back and leave the outer territories completely undefended. The chamber erupted. 20 ships against 300 was suicide. Even 40 wouldn't change the odds enough to matter. The Krellins were ruthless fighters, their culture built on conquest and slavery. Drask himself had carved his reputation in blood and suffering across the outer reaches. We evacuate, Yenna said firmly. Get the civilians out before the Krellins arrive at the core colonies. And go where? Brevin countered, his translator making his words sound hollow and distant. They'll hunt down the refugee ships one by one. Drask doesn't just raid for supplies. He takes slaves, builds his fortune selling people to the black markets. Trell watched the argument spiral, feeling helpless. His own people, the Varanics, had powerful warships, but they were weeks away on the far side of galactic space. By the time reinforcements arrived, thousands would be dead or worse. The Sindari energy beings couldn't fight physical battles. The Pelthra were explorers, not warriors. The Rossic pacifist philosophy prevented them from building military fleets that a junior analyst named Pip raised her small furry hand tentatively. The Rossic barely reached chest height on most species, but she'd earned her place on the research team through brilliant work in ancient archaeology. What if we asked for help? She said quietly. From whom? Volus snapped, his patience fraying. Every species in the council is already committed or unable to fight. Not every species. Pip pulled up an ancient star chart on her data pad, her paws moving quickly across the controls. I've been studying the old Federation archives. There are references to a species that once served as peacekeepers, protected the weak from those who would harm them. Breva made a sound like bubbling laughter. You're talking about humans. They're fairy tales, Pip. Stories we tell children about brave warriors from a death world who fought for justice. The archives aren't fairy tales, Pip insisted, her whiskers twitching with determination. There are coordinates. A sector marked as human-protected territory. Ships that went there never came back, but the old records suggest it wasn't because they were destroyed. They were turned away, warned to leave and never return. Because humans don't exist, Trell said gently. He liked Pip, admired her enthusiasm. But this was desperation talking. No one has seen evidence of humans in 20,000 years. No artifacts, no ruins, nothing. They're legends. Legends don't file navigation charts, Pip argued. She projected the star map larger, so everyone could see. A sector near the galactic rim glowed with ancient warnings in multiple dead languages. These coordinates have been marked forbidden for millennia. Something is out there. General Course studied the map, his crystalline form pulsing with thought. Even if something is there, even if by some miracle humans are real and still alive, why would they help us? The stories say they left because the galaxy betrayed them. Because the stories also say they protected the innocent, Pip replied. That they couldn't stand by while people suffered. If even part of the legends are true, they might help. Silence fell over the chamber. It was an insane idea. Chasing myths while real people died. But what choice did they have? The mathematics were brutal and simple. They couldn't win. They couldn't evacuate everyone in time. They couldn't even slow the Krellans down long enough to matter. Chairman Volus looked around the room, seeing the same desperate calculation on every face. Does anyone have a better suggestion? No one spoke. Captain Wren, Volus called out. A Voranic officer near the back straightened to attention. You commanded deep space exploration missions before joining station security. Your ship is still rated for long-range travel. The Star Wing is ready, sir. Wren stepped forward, already understanding what was being asked. 2 days to reach those coordinates if I push the engines hard. Then go. Volus made the decision quickly, before doubt could settle in. Find out what's there. If humans exist, ask for help. If they don't, at least we'll know we tried everything. Wren saluted and left immediately. Pip hurried after him, clutching her data pad with the ancient coordinates. The rest of the council began the grim work of organizing evacuations and preparing their inadequate defenses. Trell remained in his seat as others filed out. He pulled up reports from Redstone 7, reading survivor accounts from the few escape pods recovered. The Krellans weren't just attacking. They were systematically destroying anyone who resisted and capturing everyone else. Men, women, children, all packaged for sale to the highest bidder. His hands trembled. Somewhere in the galaxy, if the old stories were true, humans watched and waited. Warriors from a death world who valued honor above all else. Protectors who couldn't bear to see the weak suffer. But Trell had studied history. He knew what happened to humans who tried to save the galaxy before. They were used, manipulated, and ultimately betrayed by the very people they protected. If they were smart, they'd stay hidden. They'd learned their lesson about trusting the galactic community. Still, as Trell watched the Starwing launch from the docking bay and disappear into faster-than-light travel, he found himself hoping that somewhere in the dark between stars, someone was listening. Someone who remembered what it meant to stand against evil. The legends had to be real. Because if they weren't, the galaxy was about to learn what true darkness looked like under Krellan rule. Wren gripped the armrest as Starwing dropped out of faster-than-light travel. His crew of 4 had made the journey in record time, pushing the engines beyond recommended limits. Now they drifted at the edge of a sector that shouldn't exist according to modern star charts. Sensors reading massive energy signatures. His navigator Thess reported, her plethora of feathers rippling with nervous energy. There's something out there hidden behind that nebula. The readings don't match anything in our database. Pip worked furiously at the science station, comparing current scans with her ancient archives. This is it. The coordinates match perfectly. Something built that nebula artificially. It's hiding whatever's behind it. Before Wren could give orders, every system on the ship screamed warnings simultaneously. A tractor beam locked onto their hull with impossible precision. The Starwing lurched forward, pulled toward the hidden structure like a fish on a line. Engines not responding, Thess called out. Whatever has us is too powerful. I can't break free. Through the view screen, the artificial nebula parted like curtains revealing a stage. What lay beyond made Wren's breath catch. A space station hung in the void, larger than any installation he'd ever seen. Its design was elegant, but unmistakably military. Weapon emplacements dotted the surface. Docking bays could hold hundreds of ships. Energy readings suggested power generation capabilities that defied known physics. Broadcasting on all frequencies, their communications officer said, warning us in languages I don't recognize. Wait, now it's switching to Galactic Common. It says state your purpose or be destroyed. Wren activated the transmitter with shaking hands. This is Captain Wren of the Galactic Council vessel Starwing. We come seeking help against an enemy attacking civilian populations. We mean no harm. Long seconds passed. The tractor beam held them motionless. Then the voice spoke again. Stand by for boarding. Do not resist. Do not attempt to access your weapon systems. Any aggressive action will result in immediate destruction. Blue light flared across the bridge. Ren felt a strange, tingling sensation as 6 figures materialized out of nothing. Transport technology far beyond anything the Council possessed. The figures wore armor that seemed to shift and adapt, covered in what looked like living metal. The leader stepped forward and removed her helmet. Ren found himself staring at a face from legend. Bipedal, roughly 2 meters tall, with features that matched the ancient descriptions perfectly. Dark skin, intelligent eyes that seemed to measure everything in an instant. She moved with the casual confidence of someone absolutely certain of their capabilities. I'm Commander Blair of the Human Defense Initiative, she said in perfect galactic common. You're going to come with us. Your crew will be treated well and returned unharmed if your story checks out. But understand this clearly, Captain. We don't trust easily and we don't tolerate deception. Ren nodded, not trusting his voice. The other armored figures took positions around the bridge, their weapons held ready, but not aimed directly at anyone. They moved with perfect coordination, covering angles and watching everyone without seeming threatening. Professional soldiers who'd done this 1,000 times before. The transport light flared again. Ren felt reality twist around him, and suddenly he stood in a massive command center. Human personnel worked at stations with calm efficiency. Holographic displays showed sensor data from across multiple star systems. Everything was organized, precise, military in the best sense of the word. An older man approached, his hair silver with age, but his posture straight and strong. He wore a uniform marked with insignia Ren didn't recognize, but which clearly indicated high rank. Admiral Grant, Blair said. The Varanic claims he's from the Galactic Council. Says they're under attack by someone called the Krella Marauders. Request permission to verify his story. Grant studied Ren with eyes that had seen too much. Permission granted. Use level 3 interrogation protocols. If he's telling the truth, bring him to briefing room 7. If not, return him to his ship and send them on their way with a warning. Blair nodded and gestured for Ren to follow. She led him to a smaller room where scanning equipment hummed to life. This won't hurt, she said, but it will know if you're lying. Tell me everything. Ren did. He explained about the Krellin attacks, about Warlord Drast's reputation for slavery and cruelty, about the 300 warships bearing down on defenseless colonies, about children being taken in the night and families destroyed. He showed her recordings recovered from Redstone 7. Showed her the faces of people begging for help that never came. Blair's expression remained neutral throughout, but Ren saw something flicker in her eyes when she watched the recordings. Something cold and dangerous. When the scans finished, she reviewed the results and nodded. You're telling the truth. Come with me. She brought him back to where Admiral Grant waited with several other officers. They all had that same look. Hard people who'd seen darkness and learned to fight it. Grant gestured to a chair and Ren sat, feeling like a student before teachers who actually knew what they were doing. 20,000 years ago, Grant began without preamble. Humans served the ancient Galactic Federation as peacekeepers. We came from a harsh world. We'd survived ice ages, plagues, wars. We thought that meant we understood suffering and could help prevent it in others. He pulled up holographic images. Humans in different armor, older designs. Ships that looked primitive compared to what Ren had seen outside. But the faces were the same. Determined. Committed. We stopped pirate raids. Protected shipping lanes. Intervened when stronger species tried to conquer weaker ones. For 3,000 years, we kept the peace. We believed in the Federation's ideals. Justice. Protection for those who couldn't protect themselves. Honor. Grant's voice hardened. Then politics changed. New factions took power. They decided they wanted to expand into territory held by a peaceful species called the Vel. The Vel posed no threat. They had resources the Federation wanted. When we refused to help conquer them, when we said we'd only fight defensive wars, the order came down. The hologram shifted to show planets burning. 7 human colonies destroyed. 3 billion people killed. By the very species we'd protected for centuries. They made an example of us. Showed what happened to tools that refused to be used. Ren felt sick. The legends had mentioned betrayal, but never in such brutal detail. The survivors fled here, Grant continued, to the Galactic Rim where no one would find us. We built new colonies, advanced our technology without interference or political compromise. And we watched. We monitored communications. We saw what the galaxy became without peacekeepers. The rise of warlords and slavers. The endless small wars. We intervened sometimes in secret when things got truly dark. But we never revealed ourselves. Never trusted again. Until now, Ren said quietly. Grant nodded. Until now, because your Krellin marauders crossed a line. 300 ships attacking civilians. Taking slaves. That's not politics or border disputes. That's evil. Pure and simple. He stood and walked to the viewport showing his fleet. Hundreds of ships, each one more advanced than anything in Council space. We'll help, but on our terms. We stop the Krellins. We free their captives. Then we withdraw. We don't join your council. We don't get involved in your politics. We remain independent. That's not negotiable. I understand, Ren said, and I'm grateful. My people are grateful. Grant looked at him seriously. Don't be too grateful yet. You're about to introduce the galaxy to a military force they can't match or control. That's going to cause problems. Power vacuums. Fear. Demands that we do more. Get involved in conflicts that aren't as clear-cut. We've learned what happens when we become weapons for others. We won't let that happen again. Commander Blair stepped forward. Return to your ship. Get your people evacuating civilians. When the Krellins arrive, you'll see us. Tell your council we're coming. Tell them humanity kept watching even after they destroyed us. And tell them we remember everything. Ren was transported back to his bridge. His crew stared at him in shock. He looked out the view screen and saw the human station coming alive. Ships launching. Weapons charging. A fleet mobilizing with purpose and precision. Set course back to Harmony Rise, he ordered. Maximum speed. As they jumped to faster-than-light travel, Ren thought about what he'd witnessed. The myths were real. Humanity had survived, hidden, grown stronger. And now they were coming back to a galaxy that had tried to murder them. That he just hoped the Council would be ready for what that meant. Warlord Drask surveyed the tactical display aboard his flagship Bloodclaw with satisfaction. 3 colonies destroyed. Thousands of captives already secured in the cargo holds. His fleet spread across the sector like a disease, systematic and unstoppable. His second-in-command, a scarred Krellin named Vask, approached with the latest reports. The Council's pathetic defense fleet is still assembling. They won't reach us for another week. The core colonies are defenseless. Drast's mandibles clicked with amusement. The Galactic Council was weak. They talked endlessly about peace and cooperation while their people suffered. They'd grown soft over the centuries, believing their diplomacy would protect them. They forgot that the universe respected only one thing: strength. Send half our forces to Haven's Rest, Drask ordered. Begin the harvest. I want every able-bodied worker in chains within 12 hours. Kill anyone who resists. Burn anything that fights back. The Krellin fleet moved with practiced efficiency. They'd raided dozens of systems over the past year, building Drask's fortune one captured population at a time. The black markets paid well for slaves, especially skilled workers and young, healthy specimens. This sector would make him rich beyond measure. Meanwhile, on Harmony Rise, chaos consumed the council chambers. Captain Ren had returned with an impossible story. Humans were real. They were coming. They would help. Half the council thought he'd gone insane from stress. The other half didn't know what to think. You expect us to believe you found humans? Ambassador Trell demanded. That they have ships and technology beyond our understanding? That they're going to save us from the Krellins? Ren played the recordings he'd made. The human station. Commander Blair removing her helmet. Admiral Grant explaining their history. The council chamber fell silent as they watched proof of mythology made flesh. General Kors spoke first, his crystalline form pulsing with complex colors. If this is real, if humans truly have that kind of military capability, why would they help us? According to these recordings, we try to exterminate them. Not us personally, Brevin corrected. Species that died out millennia ago. But the point stands. We failed them once. Pip stepped forward, her small frame trembling with excitement. The recordings show their technology, their weapons. If they wanted revenge, they could take it easily. But they're choosing to help instead. That says something about who they are. Chairman Volus called for order. Regardless of whether we believe this, the Krellin threat is real and immediate. We must evacuate the civilian populations. Get everyone to secure locations while we can. The evacuation began immediately. Transport ships scrambled to load families and essential supplies. Children clutched toys while parents packed what little they could carry. The elderly moved slowly, helped by younger volunteers. Fear hung in the air like smoke. Ren coordinated the refugee convoys, his eyes constantly checking sensors for any sign of the human fleet. Hours passed, then a day. The Krellins grew closer with each report. Still no sign of humanity. Doubt crept into his mind. What if the humans had changed their minds? What if they decided the risk of exposure wasn't worth it? They'd survived 20,000 years by staying hidden. Maybe asking them to fight was too much. A T-Haven's rest. The Krellin assault began in earnest. 300 warships emerged from faster-than-light travel like locusts descending on crops. The colony's defense platforms fired bravely, managing to damage 2 Krellin cruisers before being obliterated. Boarding pods rained down on the surface. The colonists fought back with whatever they had. Mining equipment became weapons. Civilians formed barricades in the streets. They knew surrender meant slavery or death. Better to go down fighting. But bravery couldn't overcome overwhelming force. General Korst made his decision. All available ships, prepare to jump to Haven's Rest. We can't save everyone, but we can buy time for more evacuations. His fleet of 20 outdated warships gathered near Harmony Rise. Everyone knew it was suicide, 20 against 300. But someone had to slow the Krellins down. Someone had to show the galaxy that evil didn't always win easily. It's been an honor serving with you all, Korst transmitted to his fleet. Whatever happens, we make them remember this day. We make them pay for every meter of space they take. The fleet jumped. They emerged near Haven's Rest to find the Krellin armada waiting like patient predators. Drast's forces had detected the Council ships coming. They'd formed a battle line, weapons charged and ready. Korst's flagship Steadfast led the charge. Their weapons were outdated, but maintained with pride. They fired everything they had. A few Krellin ships took damage. One small frigate exploded, but it wasn't nearly enough. The Krellins returned fire with overwhelming force. Council ships began dying within minutes. The Dulmer cruiser Deep Current broke apart under concentrated bombardment. The Pelthora destroyer Skyward took critical damage and began spinning out of control. On the Steadfast, damage reports flooded in. Shields failing. Hull breaches on multiple decks. Casualties mounting. Korst ordered all power to weapons. If they were dying, they'd take as many Krellins with them as possible. Sir, his sensor officer shouted suddenly. Something's happening. I'm reading massive energy spikes across the entire battle space. Space itself began to ripple. Not the familiar distortion of faster-than-light travel. Something else. Something that made instruments scream warnings they'd never been designed to give. Reality tore open. Not in one place, but across 1,000 points simultaneously. Spatial rifts bloomed like flowers made of light and physics-defying mathematics. Through each rift, ships emerged, human ships. They came in perfect formation, each one taking position with mathematical precision. The designs were elegant and deadly. Hulls that seemed to drink in starlight. Weapons that hummed with barely restrained power. Energy signatures that made Council technology look like primitive tools. That at the center of the formation hung a massive battleship. The name translated across all frequencies. Indomitable. Its weapons alone could probably destroy a moon. Admiral Grant's flagship had arrived, bringing an entire human battle fleet with it. Every sensor on both sides went wild, trying to count them all. Hundreds of warships, support vessels, carriers launching fighter craft that moved with impossible grace. The humans had brought enough firepower to glass entire planets, and they'd positioned themselves directly between the Krellans and their prey, a transmission broadcast across all channels. Admiral Grant's voice was calm, but carried absolute authority. Krellan vessels, you are engaged in acts of piracy, slavery, and mass murder. By the authority of the ancient Federation codes, we claim jurisdiction. Power down your weapons immediately. You have 2 minutes to comply. On the Bloodclaw, Warlord Drask stared at the tactical display in disbelief. Umans. The myths were real, and they'd brought enough force to end his entire operation. Fear touched his heart for the first time in decades. Then pride and arrogance reasserted themselves. They're just stories that got lucky with technology. We outnumber them 2-1. He opened a channel, his voice dripping with contempt. Umans. The bedtime stories? You expect the mighty Krellan fleet to surrender to myths. Grant's response was quiet and cold. You had your chance. The human fleet opened fire. What followed wasn't a battle. It was a demonstration. Human weapons sliced through Krellan shields like they weren't even there. Precision strikes disabled ships without destroying them. Engines went dead. Weapons systems exploded. Life support remained intact. The humans were capturing them, not killing them. Drask ordered all ships to focus fire on a single human destroyer. 200 Krellan warships concentrated their weapons on one target. The barrage hit with enough force to level cities. When it cleared, the human ship remained undamaged. Its shields hadn't even flickered. That's when true fear set in. The Krellans were fighting gods. Korst watched from the damage steadfast, in absolute awe. The human ships moved like dancers. Every shot perfect, every maneuver calculated. Within minutes, half the Krellan fleet was disabled. Within an hour, all of them were captured or destroyed. Humanity had returned, and they brought judgment with them. Commander Blair materialized on the Bloodclaw's bridge in a flash of blue transport light. Her team came with her, weapons ready, but not firing. The Krellan elite guard charged immediately, mandibles clicking with rage and desperation. The fight lasted 30 seconds. Blair moved like flowing water, every motion precise and economical. She disarmed the first attacker without breaking stride, deflected the second's blade, and put him down with a single strike. Her team worked with the same deadly efficiency. These weren't just soldiers. They were artists of combat. Warlord Drask stood at the center of his bridge, watching his supposedly elite warriors fall like children before adults. He'd built his reputation on strength and cruelty. Now he faced beings who made him look weak. You want single combat? Blair asked, removing her helmet. I'll give you that honor. Surrender or fight. Choose now. Drask roared and charged. He was massive, covered in scars from 100 battles. His claws could tear through steel. He'd killed opponents twice his size. Blair sidestepped his first strike with minimal movement, redirected his second. On his third attempt, she caught his arm, twisted, and put him on his knees before he understood what happened. This is mercy, she said quietly. Something you never showed your victims. Something you don't deserve but will receive anyway because we're not like you. Across the battlefield, human medical ships moved toward damaged council vessels. Teams transported aboard the Steadfast, where General Corps' crew struggled with failing systems and injured personnel. A human medic approached Corps' wounded communications officer, scanning her injuries with equipment that looked like it belonged in a medical facility, not a battlefield. Plasma burns, radiation exposure, 3 fractured ribs. Hold still, please. The device hummed softly. Before Corps' eyes, the burns began to heal. Flesh regenerated. The officer gasped as pain faded. Within 2 minutes, she was standing, confused but whole. Your ship took heavy damage, the medic said. We can patch the critical systems. get you back to your station. Your people fought bravely today. Coarse crystalline form pulsed with complex emotions. Gratitude, shame, awe, confusion. We were dying. You saved us. You tried to save civilians against impossible odds, the medic replied. That deserves respect. We fight for the same reasons, General. We just have better tools. On Haven's Rest, human marines spread through the colony. They moved with weapons ready, but encountered no resistance. The Krellin boarding parties had surrendered the moment their ships went dark. Now they sat in organized groups, disarmed and guarded, looking stunned. Freed slaves emerged for the Krellin cargo holds. Thousands of them. Families separated for months or years. Species from dozens of different worlds. A human officer guided them toward transport ships with gentle efficiency. You're safe now, she told them in multiple languages. Medical care is available. Food and water on the transports. We're taking you home. A Dulmer child, barely old enough to walk, approached one of the human marines. She looked up at the armored figure with wide eyes. The marine knelt down, removed his helmet, and offered a small smile. Hey there, you okay? His voice was warm despite the battle armor. The child nodded, then held up her arms. The marine picked her up carefully, mindful of his strength. She buried her face against his shoulder and began crying. Not from fear, from relief, from finally being safe. Admiral Grant broadcast across all frequencies, making sure every species in range could hear. People of the Galactic Council, we are the humans of old. We left your politics and betrayals behind 20,000 years ago. We built a new civilization in the dark between stars. But we never stopped watching, never stopped caring about the innocent. His image appeared on view screens across dozens of systems. An older man with hard eyes that had seen too much suffering, but also eyes that refused to look away from it. Those who prey on the weak, who trade in slavery and death, will face our justice. The Krellin marauders are finished. Their fleet is captured. Their leader awaits trial for his crimes. But understand this clearly. We didn't return for your politics. We won't join your councils or your committees. We won't be tools in your power games. He paused, letting the message sink in. We fight for one reason: to protect those who cannot protect themselves. That's the only authority we recognize. The innocent have our shield. The guilty have our sword. Remember this day. Remember that evil has consequences again. Humanity has returned. The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy, species that had considered humans a pleasant myth faced a new reality. The strongest military force in known space had just announced its presence, and it answered to no one. On Harmony Rise, Chairman Volus convened an emergency session. The council chamber filled quickly, representatives still processing what they'd witnessed. Captain Wren stood before them, no longer the desperate captain seeking myths, but a messenger who'd found gods. They want to meet with us, Wren reported. Admiral Grant and Commander Blair will come to Harmony Rise. They'll explain their terms, but they're very clear. They're not joining the council. They're not our army. They'll help against genuine threats to civilian populations. Everything else is our responsibility. Ambassador Yenna spoke first. They saved us. Thousands of lives preserved. The Krellins defeated. How can we not welcome them back? Because they're more powerful than all of us combined, Brevin countered. His water sphere rippled with agitation. They could conquer the entire galactic community if they wanted. What stops them? The same thing that made them leave 20,000 years ago, Pip said softly. All eyes turned to the small Rossic analyst. They don't want power over others. They want to protect people. If they wanted conquest, they could have done it centuries ago, while watching from the shadows. Trell nodded slowly. The recordings show their history. How we betrayed them, used them until they refused, then tried to exterminate them. They have every reason to hate us. Instead, they chose to help. That means something. General Kor stood, his crystalline form still showing signs of the battle. I fought beside them today. Watched them heal my wounded. They could have let us die. Could have arrived after we were destroyed and claimed they were too late. Instead, they saved us. Showed us what real honor looks like. The debate continued for hours. Some feared human power. Others saw opportunity. A few suggested trying to acquire human technology. Chairman Volus finally called for order. The humans are coming here. We'll hear their terms. We'll negotiate a relationship that works for both sides. But remember what Captain Wren told us. They remember being betrayed. They remember 3 billion of their people dying. If we try to use them, manipulate them, or betray them again, we'll face the same fleet that destroyed the Krellans. He looked around the chamber. They're offering us a gift. Protection from threats we can't handle alone. The price is simple. Don't involve them in our politics. Don't treat them as weapons. Respect their independence. That seems reasonable given what they're offering. The vote wasn't unanimous, but it was clear. The Galactic Council would accept humanity's terms, would welcome their help against existential threats, would not attempt to control or manipulate them. 2 days later, a small human ship docked at Harmony Rise. Admiral Grant and Commander Blair walked through corridors where people stopped and stared. The myths made flesh. Legends proven real. They carried themselves with quiet dignity, nodding politely to those they passed, but maintaining professional distance. In the council chamber, Grant outlined the formal terms. Human forces would respond to genuine threats to civilian populations. Pirates, slavers, genocidal factions. But they wouldn't mediate disputes, wouldn't enforce treaties, wouldn't pick sides in political conflicts. We'll share some medical technology, Grant offered. Help you build better defenses. Train your security forces in tactics that work. But we won't give you weapons that could be used for conquest. We won't build your fleets. You need to be able to protect yourselves, not depend on us for everything. Chairman Volus agreed to every term. The Compact of Stars was signed, establishing humanity as independent protectors, not council members, not servants, partners in defending the innocent. As Grant prepared to leave, he turned back to face the assembly. We gave the galaxy everything once. Our strength, our blood, our trust. You threw it away. We won't make that mistake again. But we also won't abandon those who need help. Choose wisely how you move forward. Because we're watching now. We're always watching. The humans departed, leaving a galaxy forever changed by their return. 3 months after the Battle of Haven's Rest, the galaxy looked different. Human patrol ships moved through the outer reaches with quiet efficiency. Pirates who'd operated freely for decades suddenly found themselves hunted. Slaver operations collapsed as their ships were intercepted and their captives freed. The trial of Warlord Dras became the most watched proceeding in galactic history. The Galactic Council established a special tribunal on Harmony Rise. Representatives from 20 species sat in judgment. But everyone knew the real authority came from the humans standing at the back of the chamber. Dras sat in restraints designed by human engineers, his massive frame diminished by defeat. Prosecutors presented evidence of his crimes. Thousands of victims testified. The recordings were brutal. Families torn apart. Children sold to labor camps. Entire settlements destroyed when they resisted. Through it all, Drask showed no remorse. I did what the strong do, he said when given a chance to speak. I took what I wanted from those too weak to stop me. That's the law of the universe. General Korst, serving as one of the judges, responded quietly. The law of the universe is that evil eventually faces justice. You're proof of that. The tribunal sentenced Drask to life imprisonment under maximum security. His entire fleet was permanently disbanded. The Krellin homeworld, desperate to avoid sanctions, publicly disavowed his actions and paid reparations to his victims. Captain Wren watched the proceedings from the observation gallery. Pip sat beside him, taking notes for the historical record she was compiling. Around them, freed slaves watched their tormentor face consequences for the first time. It feels strange, Wren said quietly. Justice actually working for once. That's what changes, Pip replied. When people know someone's watching. When they know evil gets punished instead of rewarded. The whole galaxy is learning a new lesson. Down on Haven's Rest, reconstruction moved forward with remarkable speed. Human engineering teams worked alongside local builders. They brought technology and expertise far beyond galactic standard. Buildings rose faster. Power systems became more efficient. Medical facilities received equipment that could heal injuries once considered permanent. A human engineer named Thomas worked with a crew of Pelfer construction workers on a new school. They'd lost the original building in the Krellin attack. Parents wanted their children back in classes as soon as possible. This support beam goes here, Thomas explained, showing the design on his datapad. It'll handle 3 times the load of your standard materials. Should last a few centuries at least. The lead Pelfer builder, Senna, examined the plans with admiration. Your technology is incredible. Why share it with us? Thomas shrugged. Because you need it and we can help. What's the point of having knowledge if we hoard it? Besides, the kids need a school. That matters more than keeping secrets. Similar scenes played out across the recovering colonies. Human medical teams trained local doctors in advanced techniques. Security advisors taught planetary defense forces new tactics. Agricultural specialists helped optimize food production. None of it came with demands or strings attached. The humans helped, then moved on to the next crisis. On Harmony Rise, young Pip had become something unexpected. An ambassador for human galactic cooperation. She established cultural exchange programs, bringing human art and literature into galactic universities. In return, humans learned about the diverse species they were protecting. She gave a presentation to a packed auditorium about her research. The old myths got some things wrong, she explained. They made humans sound like invincible warriors who never felt fear. The reality is more interesting. Humans are strong because they choose to be, because they've survived impossible challenges on their homeworld and learned that protecting others gives life meaning. In the audience, several human officers watched with approval. Commander Blair sat in the front row, having agreed to answer questions after Pip's presentation. When the time came, a Rossic student raised her hand nervously. Why did you really come back? After everything that happened to your people, you could have stayed hidden forever. Why risk exposure? Blair considered the question carefully. Because hiding is survival, not living. My ancestors fled to save themselves. That was necessary, but they spent 20,000 years building a civilization based on the values that got them betrayed. Honor, protection of the innocent, justice. Eventually, you have to ask what those values mean if you never act on them. She stood and faced the audience directly. When we saw the Krellins attacking civilians, we had a choice. Stay hidden and stay safe, or reveal ourselves and do what we knew was right. The choice was easier than you'd think, because living without purpose isn't really living at all. The students erupted in applause. Blair accepted it with a slight smile, then departed quietly. She had patrol assignments waiting. Meanwhile, in the deep dark between stars, Admiral Grant reviewed intelligence reports aboard the Indomitable. Commander Blair joined him in his ready room, still in her dress uniform from the university visit. How was the next generation? Grant asked, offering her coffee from the pot on his desk. Hopeful, Blair replied, accepting the cup. They're growing up in a galaxy where protecting the weak actually happens, where evil faces consequences. That's different from what we saw for 20,000 years. Grant nodded. But we can't be everywhere. 3 major pirate operations hit last month. We stopped 2, but missed one. They raided a transport convoy near the Outer Rim. Took 50 hostages before we could respond. Did we get them? Eventually. Freed the hostages. Captured the pirates. But we were 12 hours too late. People suffered because we're stretched thin. Grant rubbed his eyes tiredly. The galaxy is too big. Too many threats. We can't protect everyone. Blair sat across from him. So what do? Well, we planned from the start. We handle the big threats. The Krellin-level operations. The systematic evil. The rest, we help the galactic species learn to handle themselves. Train their security forces. Share technology. Make them strong enough to protect their own people. Some on the council are already asking for more, Blair warned. They want us to mediate their disputes, enforce their trade agreements, basically become their police force, which is exactly what we said we wouldn't do. Grant's voice hardened. We protect the innocent from those who would harm them. We don't pick sides in political squabbles. That's how we got betrayed last time. He pulled up a star map showing human patrol routes. We maintain our independence. We help where we can. but we make clear boundaries and enforce them absolutely. The moment we become tools for political factions, we've failed everything we stand for. Blair agreed. The compact of stars hold for now. Most species appreciate what we're doing, but there will be pressure, demands, attempts to manipulate us into serving their interests. Then we resist, Grant said simply. We've survived 20,000 years by staying true to our values. We're not changing now. They worked late into the night shift, coordinating patrols and reviewing intelligence on potential threats. Outside the viewports, human ships moved in perfect formation. A fleet built not for conquest, but for protection. A sword held by those who'd learned the hard way that power without purpose was just tyranny. Back on Harmony Rise, Ambassador Trell stood on an observation deck watching a human medical ship depart. They'd just delivered supplies to help with a plague outbreak on a nearby colony. Advanced medicines that would save thousands of lives. No payment requested. No favors demanded. General Corse joined him, his crystalline form pulsing with contemplative colors. I fought wars for 30 years. Thought I understood what military strength meant. Then I watched the humans fight and realized I knew nothing. They make it look easy, Trell agreed. But I've read the historical records Pip uncovered. They suffered terribly to become this strong. Their homeworld tried to kill them constantly. Ice ages, predators, diseases. They survive by adapting, by protecting each other. And now they protect us, Kor said, even though we don't deserve it. Trell turned to face him. Maybe that's the point. They don't help because we deserve it. They help because it's right. Because protecting the weak is what gives their strength meaning. That's what makes them different from every other powerful species in history. In the darkness of space, the human fleet continued its eternal patrol, watching, waiting, ready to strike when evil threatened the innocent. The myths had become reality. And reality had become hope for a galaxy learning what it meant to have true protectors again. 6 months after humanity's return, a Dulmer child named Lena drew pictures in her classroom on Haven's Rest. The school the human engineers had helped rebuild stood strong and bright, filled with students who'd survived the Krellin attack. Lena's drawing showed armored figures with kind eyes. She labeled it carefully in basic galactic common. The day the humans came, her teacher, a Pelthera named Senna, hung it on the wall alongside dozens of similar drawings. An entire generation growing up knowing that someone watched over them. Far above, in the rebuilt orbital platforms, Captain Wren coordinated with human patrol ships. His crew had expanded to include a human liaison officer named Sarah, who helped integrate their defensive systems with human technology. Sensors clear across all sectors, Sarah reported. No hostile contacts. The pirates are learning to stay away from protected zones. Wren smiled. It's strange having quiet days. I almost miss the excitement. Careful what you wish for, Sarah replied with a grin. Admiral Grant says boredom means we're doing our job right. When things get exciting in our line of work, people usually die. The conversation was interrupted by an urgent transmission from the council chambers. Chairman Volus requesting an immediate meeting. Wren's stomach tightened. Nothing good came from emergency council sessions in the Grand Chamber. Representatives gathered with unusual tension. Ambassador Yenna stood at the center podium, her feathers ruffled with distress. We've received a distress call from the Dulmer homeworld. A plague is spreading. Unknown origin. Our medical technology can't stop it. Thousands are already sick. Millions could die within weeks. General Korst immediately contacted the human fleet. Within hours, Commander Blair arrived with a team of human medical specialists. They carried equipment that looked more like science fiction than medicine. Portable laboratory, advanced scanners, synthesis machines that could manufacture treatments on demand. Blair reviewed the data personally. It's an engineered virus. Someone created this deliberately, probably meant as a weapon. Her eyes hardened. We can cure it, but we need to find the source. Stop whoever's spreading it. The medical team deployed to the Dulmer homeworld within 6 hours. What would have taken galactic medicine months to address, the humans solved in 3 weeks. They identified the virus strain, synthesized a cure, distributed it to every infected population center. Lena's aunt, who'd fallen sick in the first wave, recovered completely. But Blair's investigation continued. She traced the virus to a black market laboratory run by former Krellin associates, people who'd escaped the original crackdown and gone underground. They planned to sell the virus and the cure to the highest bidder, making fortunes from engineered suffering. Human special operations teams hit 3 laboratories simultaneously. No warnings. No negotiation. They appeared like ghosts, neutralized the threats, and disappeared with all the evidence. The would-be plague merchants never had a chance. Chairman Volus addressed the council after the crisis ended. The humans saved us again, not from warfare this time, but from disease. They expect no payment, ask for no favors, simply help and move on. Ambassador Trell stood. Perhaps it's time we learn to be more like them. Stop depending on their protection for everything. Build our own capabilities. Honor their example by becoming stronger ourselves. The proposal passed unanimously. The Galactic Council began a massive initiative to improve medical infrastructure, security coordination, and emergency response capabilities. Not to replace human help, but to reduce the need for it. To handle smaller threats themselves and only call humanity for truly existential dangers. Young Pip, now officially recognized as an expert on human culture, helped design the training programs. She worked closely with human advisors who shared knowledge freely. Not advanced weapons technology, but defensive tactics, medical techniques, engineering principles that could improve daily life across the galaxy. On the indomitable Admiral Grant met with his senior staff. Commander Blair reported on the plague investigation. Other officers detailed patrol operations and intelligence gathering. The conversation was professional, efficient, focused on protecting the innocent. But Grant sensed something shifting in the deep dark. Ancient sensors had detected unusual energy signatures in uncharted regions. Something old was waking up. Something that predated humanity's exodus. Whatever's out there has been dormant for 20,000 years, he said quietly. The timing of our return and its awakening seems too coincidental. Blair considered this. You think our presence triggered something? I think the galaxy has had peace for so long because certain threats were sleeping. We come back, start making noise with advanced technology, and something notices. Grant pulled up star charts showing the anomalous readings. We need to investigate quietly. If there's a threat beyond anything the galactic community has faced, we need to be ready. He assigned a stealth team to investigate the readings. They'd go silent, gather intelligence, and report back. Whatever was waking in the dark between stars would find humanity ready. Back on Haven's Rest, General Korst visited the memorial erected for those lost in the Krellin attack. Human engineers had helped design it. A simple monument listing every name. Every person who died protecting others. Beside it stood a new addition. A statue showing a human Marine kneeling with a child, the same scene witnessed during the rescue operations. Kor stood before it with Captain Wren and young Pip. They changed everything, Kor said quietly. Not just by being powerful, but by showing us what power should protect. My research shows they always believed that, Pip added. Even 20,000 years ago, even when it got them betrayed and nearly destroyed, they never stopped believing some things matter more than survival. Wren nodded. I was terrified when I found them. Thought I was seeking myths. Found something better. Found people who'd learned the hardest lessons about trust and betrayal, but still chose to help anyway. Across the galaxy, similar conversations happened. Species that had considered humans pleasant legends now spoke of them with respect and gratitude. Children grew up knowing that evil faced consequences, that protecting the weak wasn't naive, but noble, that strength without compassion was just tyranny. 3 human ships patrolled the outer reaches, sensors active, weapons ready. Their crews were relaxed but alert. They'd trained for this their entire lives, protecting those who couldn't protect themselves, stopping evil before it could spread, living the values their ancestors had died for. On the bridge of one patrol ship, a young officer named Michael watched sensor displays showing hundreds of systems. Millions of people living their lives in peace because someone stood watch. His grandmother had survived the betrayal that drove humanity into exile. She told him stories about the old days, about believing in justice and learning the universe didn't always care about fairness. But we care, she'd said. That's what makes us human. Not our strength or technology, but the fact that we choose to protect others even when it costs us, even when we get betrayed, even when it would be safer to hide. Michael understood that now, watching over species that had once tried to exterminate his people, protecting them anyway because it was right, because some values mattered more than old grudges or justified anger. Admiral Grant stood on the observation deck of the Indomitable, looking out at the stars. Commander Blair joined him, carrying 2 cups of coffee. "The Council wants to give us medals," she said with amusement. "Formal recognition for services to galactic peace." Grant accepted the coffee with a slight smile. "Tell them thanks, but we don't need medals. We're not doing this for recognition." I told them that. They seemed confused. They will be for a while. Grant sipped his coffee. They're used to politics and grand gestures. We're used to quiet competence and actually helping. Different cultures. Blair nodded. "Do you think we made the right choice? Coming back. We could have stayed hidden forever." Grant considered the question carefully. "We survive by hiding, but we're living by protecting. There's a difference. Our ancestors fled to save themselves. That was necessary, but building an entire civilization just to hide seemed wrong. Like letting the betrayers win by making us afraid to be who we are. And who are we? We're the species that looks at suffering and can't walk away. That sees evil and fights it even when it's dangerous. That protects the weak because strength without purpose is meaningless." He looked at her seriously. "We're human, and that means something." Hiding from it felt like dying slowly. In the council chambers, Chairman Volis convened a regular session. Ambassador Trell reported on improved security cooperation. Brevin detailed new medical initiatives. Yenna shared educational exchange programs. The galaxy was learning, growing, becoming stronger through cooperation and shared purpose. "The humans taught us we can be better," Volis concluded. "Not through conquest or force, but by example. They show us every day what it means to have power and use it responsibly. We owe them more than we can ever repay." General Kor stood. "Then we repay them by learning their lessons, by protecting our own people better, by building a galaxy where they don't have to fight every battle, where we handle our own problems and only call them for threats that truly require their strength." The council agreed. The galaxy was changing, growing up, learning that protection of the innocent was everyone's responsibility, not just humanity's burden. Lena finished her drawing in the classroom on Haven's Rest. She showed it to her teacher proudly. It depicted not just humans protecting others, but different species working together. Humans and Varanix and Dulmer and Pelthera, all standing against darkness together. "What should we call it?" Senna asked. Lena thought carefully. "The new galaxy, where everyone helps." Outside her window, a human patrol ship passed overhead. Silent, watchful, ready. The myths had become protectors. The legends had become real. And reality had become hope for countless worlds learning what it meant to have guardians who would never abandon them again. Humanity kept its promises. They protected the innocent, punished the guilty, stayed independent but engaged, remained strong but compassionate. And the galaxy, for the first time in 20,000 years, remembered what real justice looked like. The stars shone brighter, knowing someone watched over them.